Love that woman's voice. Who doesn't? Whoever doesn't come to this class doesn't know, but yeah, I love that. Okay, zoom in. So, welcome to Armistice Day class, Veterans Day, except a day early, November 10th, and we are meeting at 12:30 p.m. We've made Vandal Catholic Intellect history in that this is the first class ever afternoon in forever. That's really cool. Another thing that's really cool, normally I have extensive notes on the board. Eli said I have to erase that thing there, the last remnants of 2, and I've decided not to do that. I've taken his advice under consideration and rejected it. The vast majority of notes today are from my yellow flip pad. So I'm inspired. Sophia said that all people of high intelligence have yellow notebooks. She told me that once. So there's my papers. Papers, please. There's the evidence. We are meeting a day early because I don't even know why. We just decided to, and everyone decided to come and show up. So welcome.
No, that's not true.
Why? What's the reason why?
Because you said we're meeting early, and we said, "Oh, okay."
Okay. Sophia, it's not letting me zoom in. I'm sorry.
Is that in like honor of Veterans Day or no? Not working on it.
No, not really. See, well, like, do you have to honor someone by taking the day off? Like, that's an argument, right? You know, like well, especially as Catholics, we take Sunday off, we serve our labor work. So you can, but you can also honor the people by gathering on that day and working harder. I don't know. I still don't know why we're meeting. I have on my notes here a note that says "full of lies." I don't know what that refers to. Hopefully we'll figure it out. Okay, so today's lecture is entitled "All War Chronology to the End of 1917." We're going to get after it. We're going to get this done in like 50 minutes. That's my thought today. First thing on the yellow notepad reads Lawrence of Arabia in purple. Lawrence of Arabia. I have in blue ink after that, which is this is impossible to see for you on the Zoom. You guys cannot see this. There's no chance. It's humanly, physically impossible. Which is another first. In this class, we've done something that is humanly impossible. I've created a slidesheet that you can't read, so I have to read it to you. The blue after Lawrence of Arabia, number 1, reads goal Arab unity equals fulfilled, question mark. Instrumental in Arab revolt versus OTT, 1916 to 18, antidote to Gallipoli. Okay, what is this? Well, Lawrence of Arabia, a colonel, a British archaeologist, army officer, diplomat, and writer. Who here has seen the movie Lawrence of Arabia? Yeah, no one else has seen this? He is invited, or it works in partnership with Hussein bin Ali, the Sharif of Mecca, in what today is called Saudi Arabia. And they initiate a revolt at Mecca on June 10th, 1916. What is going on in June of 1916? If your look is like, there's this weird channel.
You said Mecca.
At Mecca.
That really got my attention.
Yeah, well, Mecca and Medina, these 2 holiest sites of Islam,
Yeah, it's
right?
like, let's have a battle in the Vatican.
In the Vatican, right?
Yeah.
Very, very fair comparison. Okay, well, this will all the more so probably lead credence to if I am this the Sharif and I want to have support for my revolt, I can couch it all the more as jihad, holy war, perhaps by having it take place based out of Mecca. What is going on in 1916? What is happening in World War I in 1916? Those of you just joining us in the class period, kind of, we're ending the war chronology at 1917 today. And it takes us into the last year of the war, which is 18. We're really stitching things up. But this takes us back in time. What 2 great battles are taking place in 1916?
Verdun and the Somme.
Sophia, everything you say is always correct, not usually. And you're right again, surprise, surprise. Verdun and the Battle of Verdun and the Somme. Yeah. Now, very, very simple. Arab revolt versus OTT. Who might that be? Who is our friend Ott? Mel Ott was a very famous baseball player. This is not a revolt against Mr. Ott. Who is Ott? What is Ott?
Is that an acronym or not?
Like the Ottoman
Kind of.
That's what I was.
Again, just whatever she says, take notes on. The Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire, based out of what is modern-day Turkey, has this behemoth-like hegemony over the Middle East. including parts of what is modern day Saudi Arabia, Iran, etc. The British of import on my little blue sheet right there, yellow sheet, blue ink, antidote to Gallipoli. The British see this, okay? This is what the whole rebellion is about. This rebellion is about two things. And for the purpose of time, we're gonna clip along because yeah, buddy, German train system. We're just gonna go. Two things about this revolt. This is the first one. The British are pissed, for lack of a better word, but maybe that's the only word. They're pissed. They're not angry. They're like furious. That while everything is hardening in Europe, and there's a great failure of the Allies en masse to break the Western Front and the Eastern Front, well, at least we can beat the Turks in Gallipoli, right? At least we can open up this soft underbelly of Gallipoli. And as we know, we covered in this class what a massive failure that is for the British in general and Winston Churchill in particular. So this is an antidote to Gallipoli. We couldn't get the Ottomans on at Anzac Cove. We couldn't break through and get to Constantinople and promise the Russians the reinstitution of Byzantium, but we can still tear down the Ottomans, those bad Ottoman Turks who are the allies of the Germans. How about we do it? We couldn't do it straight up, mano a mano, British army against Ottoman army. How about we try to have the Ottoman subjects revolt against them and encourage Arab nationalism? Well, right? The British, the way they get the support of some of these local sheiks, some of these local sharifs, different tribal leaders, is they argue that, look, when you guys support us British people, we work with you in a revolt against the bad guy Ottomans. Remember, Ottoman bad guy, right? Let's keep it as simple as possible. They're bad, they're oppressing you guys. We are going to argue for Arab nationalism. We are going to help you once the revolt is successful, make a great Arab state in the Middle East. If I'm a devout Muslim living under Ottoman rule, the Ottoman Empire is also Muslim. But if I don't like the Turkish aspect of the nationalistic, I would like to still keep my Islamic faith, but under the guise of something based out of Saudi Arabia, let's say right on the nose right here. Well, the revolt is successful in some ways, okay? But after the war, the British will, this is point number 2, renege on the promise. Sorry. Instead of creating a unified Arab nation or working for that, they create mandate territories. What's most important about this? For the 1,000th time, Gracjan, you're so right. Everything about our modern world was created here. Gracjan, you're the man. What is?
Why did you even show up?
Well, the last thing I'm going to read to you is Balfour Declaration. That's the creation of State of Israel. Ooh. So the British promised the Arabs in defeating the Ottomans, other Arabs, that we're going to have Arab unity. They backtrack on that promise, have the mandate territories in Palestine and the creation of the State of Israel 31 years later. And do the Israelis and Arabs like or not like each other today? And does it have anything to do with this or not? And the answer is both in the affirmative. Okay. Even our modern Middle East, all these problems in some way stem to World War I. In a way I haven't mentioned as well, this is the explosion of oil. That idea of, we're just going in topple Saddam to get to the Kuwaiti oil fields or whatever. This starts now already. The Industrial Revolution is long underway. So even the modern Middle East gives us a good foundation and roots for some of our struggles today. And you can see why the Arabs are like Western man bad. Like, yeah, these a-holes, for lack of a better word, promised us help, and they just lied to us. And they told us if we do this rebellion against the Ottomans at the price of our own heads. If I'm an Ottoman subject and I revolt, the penalty is death. It's treasonous, right? But at least we're gonna have an Arab state. Oh, sorry. Remember the one thing that I promised you guys, we're not gonna do that anymore, right? And you guys support me in a revolt in which you might get killed, but we're gonna give you land and milk and honey. Actually not, just kidding, right? So this is a really, really big deal. We're gonna capstone this class today, beginning with Lawrence of Arabia, ending with the Balfour Declaration. I'm gonna read to you the text of what that says. The State of Israel doesn't come into being actually until after the Second World War and the horrible tragedy of the Holocaust and the story that you know very, very well. But it's in the making for a long time. The whole Zionist movement goes back to a man named Theodor Herzl, already in the late 19th century in Vienna. It's a long, long time coming. All of that is going on in World War I. Point number 2, German Reichstag Peace Resolution, July 19th. Why might the Germans want to propose peace? Why? Nope, sorry, Luke. It's not because they're good guys. Sorry. Great, nice try. Wrong answer. They're nice people. That's not the answer. Um, I love that people can't see Luke on the Zoom. They think he was like gesticulating and saying that's the answer, and I just totally could have like been reaming him out. He did nothing wrong, and you think I'm in the right because the camera's on me. So sorry, Luke. Why might the Germans be interested in peace? Why?
In 1916.
This is 1917, July 19th, 1917. Excellent corrective to me, Dave, because I was just talking about 1916, the start of the Ottoman revolt. This whole class is war chronology 1917. Why might the Germans be interested in peace?
They've got pretty good holds in France and
It is a
elsewhere.
perfect answer. It is a perfect answer. It's exactly it. If the war ends right now, we Germans own all of Belgium. We're making great progress in Russia. Russia's going to capitulate pretty soon, with the revolution. The writing's kind of on the wall, following the failed Kerensky offensive we talked about last class. If things end right now, the German Empire comes out pretty good. Lost a lot of men. It's been there's a very sad story. I might have told you this story earlier in class. Very, very sad story of a woman on a train. She's doing this. In counting 1 through 5, people start snickering. Did I tell you this story? We start laughing. And the husband finally tells people to shut up. And he's like, stop it. He's like, stop making fun of my wife. I'm taking her to the insane asylum. All 5 of our sons were killed in the war. So, yeah, and so the German people have suffered a lot. Everyone suffered a lot in this war. But the Germans, on a peace resolution, exactly as Eli said, if they end the war now, they are the clear winners. So they're very much interested in peace and now I was joking earlier before, Luke actually had never heard Luke say a wrong answer. And he might have in his life. I can't confirm it. Luke actually didn't make any answer. He said nothing. So I'm the idiot calling him out. He's perfectly blameless. But let's imagine that Luke said it was because they were good guys. Like I claimed he did, but you didn't. There is some humanitarian aspect to it, sure. But the overall answer is that they're coming out very, very strong if the war ends right now. Okay, Corfu Declaration, number 3. Corfu Declaration, July 20th. Goal, unity South Slavs. It's a little green connector. I connect to the goal of Arab unity. Guys, everybody in this war is saying this to themselves. All the nationalistic people. Diana is queen of Serbia, and she's like, I've been under the yoke of the Ottoman Austro-Hungarians forever. I hate those people. I see that I'm a queen for a reason. I'm smart, if you haven't noticed. I see that they're falling apart, that their empire is going by the wayside. I want to secure the place of my people in this post-war, post-imperial nationalistic world. So just like the Arabs, and then later the creation of the state of Israel, Jewish people worldwide, all different types of people looking for how can we nationalize our interests. So too is this going on in the Balkans, where the war eventually broke out. And the goal of this Corfu Declaration is working for an agreement amongst different Slavic people, especially led by the Kingdom of Serbia. Our friend Nikola Pasic, remember him from the Balkan crisis? If you don't, it's fine. But he's the prime minister of Serbia. He's very instrumental in the July crisis after Franz Ferdinand and Sophie and their child are assassinated. Pasic is advocating for a centralist government. Oh, wow, surprise, surprise. Serbia is number 1. How about we have a Yugoslavia? Yugo means south, by the way. A Yugoslav republic, which will come into being after World War I, as you know. But how do we have a Yugoslavia that's run by me? Shocking, right? Who do you propose for leadership, Trish Schmidt? Well, I can't think of anyone better than me, right? We see this all the time. Whereas other people, perhaps less influential Slavic people are arguing for a more federated idea. The United States of America, are we a centralized or a federated place? Really though. Are we more centralized or more states' rights in America? Yeah, centralized to the max, ever since 1865. Thanks, Lincoln. Ever since the Civil War, the American Civil War, ends slavery. Thank God. That's amazing. God be praised. Thank God that slavery didn't last even one more day. That's really good. But I would argue the Civil War creating basically out of nothing the idea that Washington, D.C. can tell everyone what to do. And if you support any kind of states' rights, you're just some kind of bigot, monarchist. Like, that's garbage. I hate that. America is very much centralized, very much Roman. Whereas like the European Union, why does Hungary and Poland get away with flipping off Brussels all the time? They actually are a federal kind of union. They're not Those 27 members are not as closely bound as America is. That's the debate here. Who's going to win this out? And so for the I have in green ink at the end, and for the 1000th time, World War I equals modern day effects. What happens in Yugoslavia in the 1990s? You remember the awful kind of ethnic cleansing and fighting and stuff after the end of the Cold War? Where do you think those antagonisms come from? Right? Why do Eli and I hate each other, despite both being Orthodox Christians? Well, he's Serbian, I'm from Montenegro, whatever, like just jockeying. So once more again, this type of stuff, effects then have long-term effects. I'm actually going to skip around a little bit, I think. I'm going to skip number 4. I want to really talk today about, guys, I really want to talk, my whole slides and my whole pictures today are from Passchendaele and Third Ypres. Where is our friend Claire from Ypres? Where is Claire? Probably in Ypres. She probably went back home. Wow, imagine it. Family reunion.
This time every year. they
How
do
disrespectful. Luke, do you think our friend Claire is actually from Ypres or not?
I have no idea.
What would you guess?
Yes.
Is our friend Claire in our class actually from the northern part of Belgium, from Flanders?
Yes.
The answer is, as far as I know, 100% not. But you
She's
give me-
never denied it.
She never denied it.
She didn't tell me she wasn't, so.
She didn't say.
It stands to reason.
She didn't say it was disinformation.
No.
She didn't flag it on
No.
social media as,
No.
as false news,
Mhm.
fake news. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe she is. If she's in Ypres right now, I'm gonna be super pissed. Like
She's probably watching.
she's probably watching, but like, well, not in class, so whatever. I want to focus on Third Ypres or Passchendaele, part of that battle. That's what all the slides are from today. I'm actually going to give you a very exceptional slideshow today. And by exceptional, I mean not the way it's colloquially used, an exception to the rule. I usually try to show you slides of everything. I'm just going to show you slides of one thing today, just the Battle of Passchendaele, which I think is the saddest, most tragic, most emblematic battle of the whole First World War. Okay. And if you want a quick preview why, because people are basically, in addition to all the horrible stuff, artillery shell, because of the low-lying land, they're dying in quagmires, like drowning to death in pits of sand. It's just awful, horrible. I want to skip ahead to number 6, Battle of Caporetto. Okay, October 24th to November 4th of 1917. Okay, the Battle of Caporetto is also known as the 12th Battle of the Isonzo. Okay, it pits Austria-Hungary against the Italians. The Italians are whose ally? Who are the Italians allied with?
Germany. So,
Italy's with Germany.
Yeah.
And why are they fighting the Austro-Hungarians?
well, it's complicated.
It is complicated. It's not that complicated. Yeah, that would be really complicated. It's not quite that complicated. They're on the Allied side.
It
However,
worked to begin with.
Dave Schmidt is right. Dave Schmidt is always also right.
Everybody is always right.
In my book, it is. So what? That's my truth. My truth is that everyone is a fluffy bunny of goodness and wholesomeness. The Italians were on the Central Power side in the beginning, the League of Three Emperors, all this kind of stuff. You're right. The Italians flip-flop the same way they do. Just thinking of an Italian flipping a pizza, like the Italians flip-flop thin crust pizza diplomacy. And they switch over to the Allied side because they are especially lustful, purposely using the word for lust, like blinded by their passion and not using reason for taking parts of what is Austria-Hungary then, taking certain ports and Trieste and this kind of stuff. The Italians have fought, which is in modern day Caporetto, this is going on, which is in modern day, I think Slovenia already, northwestern Slovenia. So almost in the Balkans themselves, very much northern Italy, Slovenia, kind of south central Europe, a little bit north of the Balkans. They have unsuccessfully fought the Austro-Hungarians 11 times. The first battle of the Isonzo to the 11th battle of the Isonzo. Until this one right here, the 12th battle of the Isonzo, more famously known as the Battle of Caporetto. Okay, so up to this point, the Italian army has had its strength reduced by almost 50%, from like 1.8 million troops in the area to about 1 million. They've lost 800,000 men. There's a big problem of attacking against fortified positions, bad tactics, and the kind of human wave problem. Deanna, you haven't been with us when I mention this so often. For your information, and actually very serious, a human wave attack, which you might surmise yourself what that means, is basically no regard for human life. Just all you guys get out of the trench, walk across the land. If all you get mowed down by machine guns, that's kind of the point. Hopefully while you do that, our guns will hit them, everyone dies, maybe we'll die less and win. It's very, very almost evil, like disregard for human life, throwing people's lives away. A similar thing is happening here on the southern front in Italy. It's just kind of like endless attacks against the Austro-Hungarian positions. Nothing is happening. No one is breaking through. The French and the British are very angry because they failed at Gallipoli, right? That didn't work. The Italians are proving completely useless. And God bless them. So many of the individual soldiers and stuff incredibly heroic. So many of the individual commanders very, very good. I mean, as a general sense, the strategy is not working to get to the Austro-Hungarians and Germans through the kind of soft underbelly of Europe. Okay, Caporetto. Foul weather, as well as a lack of preparedness, delayed the attack that the Austro-Hungarians want to make against the Italians. All right. However, by October 24th, there's enough of the kind of the winds are favorable enough that the Austro-Hungarians begin firing upon the Italian positions with what dominantly? What is the story of World War I often with artillery fire? What often accompanies it? It's only until after the war that we kind of make rules about this.
Is it air gas or some sort of mustard gas?
That's why I'm saying, Luke, every example I have from you is always the correct answer. And that's correct again. Yeah, poison gas. Okay, chlorine, arsenic, disphosogene, just smothering the trenches with nerve gas. And as we talked about, we did a specific lecture earlier in the class that you can look up again, thanks to our amazing Anna Kraszewski, who posts all these videos to Vandal Catholic YouTube page. One of the earlier lectures, we talked about some of the effects of nerve gas and how horrible this is. The way of stripping the mucous membrane of the lungs, people like dry drown, and it's horrifying. It's literally diabolical. If you subscribe to the cliche that war is hell, I think gas gets as close to it as possible. It's kind of gruesome deaths. Well, how does this work psychologically? This is terrible, but they know what gas does to someone. What we want above all is to clear them out of their gun nests. So if we fire gas, we actually need to be praying secretly and no one actually gets affected that dies by this. We just want them to turn tail and run and not be able to fire on us. Then we'll fight conventionally, and attack and whatever. So a lot of the idea of gas too is to clear the defenses or clear the position that you yourself hope to take. And this works in a little bit. Okay. Maybe about 500 to 600 of the Italian defenders, individual people, flee with the gas test. What really happens though, at 6:40 in the morning, it's October 24th, 1917, 2,200 guns open fire. Guns, artillery, heavy artillery pieces. Remember, in the entirety of the First World War, 75% of casualties come from artillery fire. It's a completely new phenomenon, not from small arms fire, and bayonets make up very little percentage. It's almost all kind of heavy guns from distance. All right. This is very, very successful, and soon the Austro-Hungarians penetrate through the Italian fortifications. The first 11 battles of the Ascenso, which have been kind of stalemates, but heavy attrition, heavy losses, especially the Italians. Here's a brick. The thing we always talk about, right? Both sides want that breakthrough of trenches, breakthrough, literally called a breakthrough, happens here. So then, this is, I say cool, and I tremble at saying cool. God have mercy, this isn't cool, this is terrifying. Cool is like a tactic. The Austro-Hungarians had these kind of like stormtrooper people, special units, and a lot of them were equipped with flamethrowers. That's not cool on a human level, right? That's not cool. Like if someone's storming someone, shooting them with a flamethrower, that's horrifying. But in terms of tactics, this is a very well planned kind of assault. Clear the barracks with the poison gas, especially because of the terror, the psychological terror that poison gas does. When that happens, use the heavy guns. Here it's very successful. And then put in your troops, but wait a second, excuse me, in the headquarters. Let's not do the human wave stuff and just send everyone over. Let's have special trained units, special kind of crack forces. And these guys come over with light machine guns, flamethrowers, and hand grenades, and they run roughshod over the Italians. It's a quick breakthrough. This one Italian commander, Capello, he's bedridden with fever, and he asks that his troops be allowed to withdraw, to kind of regroup. But the head of the forces, Cardona, overrules him. It's only finally until a couple days later, after this massive initial success by the Austro-Hungarians, that the Italians retreat. It takes them 4 full days to cross a river with their troops. What do you think is happening when the Italians, again, remember, keep this battle in your order. It starts, gas clears them out, artillery success, here come the special troops. Retreat, no, hold the line. Okay, guess we have to retreat. As they're retreating over the river, what are the Austro-Hungarians doing? Are they letting them retreat, or are they sniping them in the back and just total destruction, right? In the old way of fighting, in Alexander the Great's time, in hand-to-hand combat, the highest amount of casualties were always when chasing a retreating army. That makes sense. If our two phalanxes hit, I mean, it's brutal hand to hand, but we're fighting, we're both tired, kind of pull back. But if you guys turn tail and you drop your weapons, especially if you have cavalry, they're just coming through, just cutting people down from behind, right? It's just awful. It's becoming a slaughter very, very fast. Finally, the Italians are able to retreat enough by November 10th, which is kind of already past the end of the battle. I have October 24th until November 4th. They're able to reestablish a position of kind of support and in a certain sense, end the carnage. But listen to the losses, okay? The Austro-Hungarians and Germans sustained between 20 and 70,000 casualties. I say this ad nauseum. One death is a tragedy. How do you think the woman feels about, only 10,000 people were killed and all 5 were her sons, right? And no amount of time. If people were talking about this in 1,000 years, oh, it happened long ago, it's fine. It's never fine. It's awful. It's a terrible tragedy. But mathematically, strategically speaking, that's not bad. When you have 70,000 casualties, when the Italians had almost 300,000, more than 4 times. Okay. And here's a note that morale amongst Italian troops was so low, thanks to Cardona, leader. They kind of looked at as like filling your favorite expletive. Like he's just kind of an a-hole, kind of angry guy, doesn't care about us. Not only does he send us into like human wave attacks, but he kind of insults us, treats us like total shit. He's just total like really mean kind of guy. Think of the opposite, like Petain like ride the troops, right? I'm gonna send you home to see your wife and get better food. So I love this guy. I'll go through a brick wall for him. It's the opposite. A lot of these guys willingly surrender. The Italians will lose over 3,000 artillery pieces and 3,000 machine guns too. Caporetto has been called, rightfully, by historian Brian R. Sullivan, the greatest defeat in Italian military history. That's saying something, right? And I don't know if he includes the Roman times. He might be.
How can they be so? You said between 20 and 70,000 casualties.
How can, yeah.
I can see estimates.
We're just going to drive west. We'll end up somewhere between Amarillo, Texas, and Seattle. Somewhere in there. Yeah. I don't know.
See you there.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I think a lot of us do with counting wounded soldiers who reports like what wounds are reported. We actually haven't talked about the pandemic in this class. It's interesting. Let's talk about it now. Like, COVID deaths, right? If someone died of COVID or from COVID, if you have a comorbidity, what about if you, the PCR test, not a lot of factors. What does it mean? I think it's a lot of this too. Deaths are very easy to count, but also too, there is 110,000 people and only 5 came back. Well, it seems that group sustained 5,000 casualties, maybe 2,000 people deserved it. There's a lot of, does that count as a casualty? What is that? I think it's in there. That is, yeah, that's unacceptable. I would say mathematically. They sustain between 68 and 70,000. That's understandable. Freaking 20 to 70. You might as well they sustain between 0 and 1 million casualties. Seriously, wow.
Just say a lot.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on. Battle of Cambrai. First Cambrai, November 20th to December 7th. What the bleep? Why is the computer doing this? This is TV. It's the worst TV of all time. I'm blaming MTV for this corrupting the viewer. I'm good. With that said, please stop. There we go.
That was awful.
Or the dance.
That was awesome. I hope that happens again.
That doesn't happen.
What? No, that's happened. That's happened many, many times.
Another conspiracy.
What is the conspiracy? Yeah. Sorry, I won't talk about the pandemic anymore. I'm sorry. First Cambrai. British attack. Okay. This is November 20th to December 7th, right? Sophia, as the only person I see taking diligent notes, shame on all besides her. November 20th to December 7th, a very successful attack by the British with tanks, right? But it is, my friends, the microcosm of the whole war going back to the Battle of Champagne in 1915. What do you think happens? Oh, a big British success in the first day. Then mechanical and communicatory unreliability stops the success in its tracks. They break through, actually, it's a battle of Cambrai. Guys, the British break through the Hindenburg line, right? That impenetrable, wasted thing that Nivelle could break through. They break through the Hindenburg line. We didn't plan again for the millionth time what to do if we actually win, because we don't expect to win. And the Germans counterattack, and it's the greatest counterattack since 1914. The Germans hammer the Allies at Cambrai. The Battle of Cambrai is the story of two battles. First day and beginning. Oh, finally a Western Front breakthrough. Since first Ypres, since the hardy Western Front, no breakthroughs. Here we go. Yes, right? And then immediately, not only a return back to breakthrough achieved, immediately failed. Now it's like double failed, triple, salt in the wound, that kind of stuff by the Germans. Just complete smash back on the British. That's kind of where we end 1917 at Cambrai. That's not how we're going to end the class. We're going to talk about the main thing today, the Passchendaele, right, in a second. But really quickly, I promise you to talk about these last two things in the Middle East. The Battle of Jerusalem, which actually goes through Christmas Day, interestingly, December 30th, was hailed by the British. By the way, the British defeat the Ottomans here, okay? Defeat the Ottomans. General Edmund Allenby entered the old city on foot to the Jaffa Gate instead of horse or vehicles to show respect for this eternal city, right, Jerusalem. He was the first Christian in many centuries to control Jerusalem. And so the Prime Minister of the UK, Lloyd George, describes it, quote, as a Christmas present for the British people. All this garbage has been going on. Cambrai, we broke through the Western Front. Wait, immediate hammer back. Caporetto, the Italians basically out of the war. Worst defeat ever. Passchendaele, spoiler alert, massive, one of the darkest moments in British history. All that darkness, and you're going to see in the slides how dark in a second. Amidst all that darkness, you finally have why is this popping up? Some guy. There we go. It's not letting me have. I hope I can go through my slides. I hope it'll be possible. After all this darkness, we finally have something, a glimmer of hope. Britain is still a Christian country, right? And this is the great city of our Lord and Savior. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And not being flippant at all. It's seen as like kind of finally something positive. The British people can hang their hat on as the calendar turns to 1918. And one of those bleeping Americans finally gonna arrive. Remember Patan? He's like, I'm waiting for the tanks, the Americans. Where are they? What is Passchendaele and Messines Ridge? July 7th to the 14th, 1917 through November. All of this is part and parcel of the Third Battle of Ypres. All right, my friends. If you look at Third Ypres number 5, I have two arrows. Right, one says first battle of Ypres 1914, and 2 the second. The first battle of Ypres 1914. I would argue Ypres, the city in northern Belgium, Flanders, is the most important city of the First World War. It's like, what's the most important city of the Civil War? Gettysburg. That kind of like immediate resonance of like the city of cities. All three battles of Ypres are very important. First battle of Ypres 1914 is where the Western Front is set. WF set. That's very important. That's where all the kind of attrition, the trenches, because of the result of Ypres. Second Ypres 1915 is the first time CHLGS, chlorine gas, is used on the Western Front. So first Ypres hardens the whole form of the war, the trenches. Second one, first time gas is used, most terrible weapon. Third Ypres is, I argue, the lowest point of the war. Maybe even worse than the first day of the Somme. Kind of, yes, I guess humanity can't sink that low. Now, Third Ypres is also known as Passchendaele. Passchendaele is part of what becomes known as Third Ypres. Passchendaele to the British, I don't know, I can't think of an example that's more poignant. This may mean nothing to you, but it's kind of like what I started this class with, the first class, like about the Battle of Kosovo, the Serbs and the Field of Blackbirds, right? Remember, Franz Ferdinand wasn't thinking of coming to celebrate Austro-Hungarian military exercise on this day of national sorrow. Third Ypres and Passchendaele for the British would be like maybe like also for the British with American colonies Yorktown, where General Cornwallis has to surrender and admit that the British will not be able to keep the American colonies. It's this battle of unbelievable import. That's what we're going to talk about now. It begins with Messines Ridge. Okay. So let me make sure I have this information for you. Okay. On July 7th, I'm on point number, where is it? I'm on point number 4, I think right now, right? Yes. 19 mines. By the way, Messines Ridge is a ridge occupied by the Germans. And Ypres, I believe, is like 60 feet above sea level. That is why, spoiler, when you see these photos, why the people were sinking in a quagmire is because the land already, before the rains come, is at sea level. It's already a big floodplain. Well, there's a ridge here, and the Germans occupy it, and guess what? We've learned, I think, at least that not only does no amount of courage work against a machine gun, you can't attack a machine gun nest uphill. The British say we can't go forward with operations around Ypres until we displace the Germans from Messines Ridge. Okay. They have planted 1 million pounds of explosives under the ridge. The Allies have. All right.
What do you mean under the ridge?
So they were
like on the bottom of the hillside?
tunneling,
or
like tunneling underneath the
actually
positions
under.
under the ridge. Yeah.
Interesting.
And at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:10 a.m. on June 7th, 19 of these mines go off. Okay, and they form, interestingly, 19 craters. That's the 19 mines equal 19 craters.
Accidentally or on purpose?
On purpose. The British, this is a successful attack.
If I look it up on Google, if there's something, is it still called that Messines Ridge? Like, I'm curious.
Look it up, yeah. I'm curious too.
Geological.
Tell me what you find.
And so the 1 million pounds they buried, are you saying that divided by 19 is into 1 million, that's how much was in each?
Yeah, so
Trying to, you know,
imagine, like, I think, yeah, as far as I understand, each mine has the constituent parts of a certain amount of TNT,
right.
like built up around it. And maybe you can think of 9 mines as kind of 9.
In Belgium?
It's in Belgium, yes. Just look up Messines Ridge, Messines.
So if they built this house here.
The attack goes off with great success. The Germans are literally blown off of the ridge, right? What immediately follows, B, is a creeping barrage. What is a creeping barrage? I mentioned this many times in this class. Who remembers what this means?
Is that the one where like the soldiers are like walking forward and they like have like weapons in front of them?
Perfect. It takes a high level of mathematical, kind of like aeronautical, you can even say sophistication, because a traditional artillery barrage is all of us infantrymen wait in the trench. We bomb the sides, and when the bombing's over, then we go. This is, hey, let's really try to save some time. You're going to march and we're going to bomb over your head. A creeping barrage. As you creep forward, we bomb forward, where everyone has.
It is to keep them down with the bombs so that you get there without getting shot first. Kind of thing.
Brilliant. It's exactly the point. That they have to, hey, I don't care how good your defenses are, how brave you are. You're not going to stick your head up to shoot the guys attacking the field if you're getting artillery fire on your own head. That's the idea. But it's very, very difficult because if you miscalculate, you can end up blowing your own people up, right? They blow up the ridge, a creeping barrage follows. It's a great success. Because number C, GB success, British success plus good tech recon, they've also done a good job with airplanes, photography, whatever. They knew where all the positions were. Everything works swimmingly. All right, and what follows after that, they capture the ridge. You see July 11th, 3rd Ypres bomb. The bombing, the opening start for the third Ypres begins. British, typical story, excellent start. This Messines Ridge, they scouted out great. They did the explosives well. They blew it up. Then the people attack. The creeping barrage works. They take the ridge. Just a huge, huge success. Nothing negative here from the British side, tactically speaking. Let me hold your beer, though, right? So wait, talk about a lot of negative stuff. Now, the British are famous for what kind of problem often? What do they do in the First World War? Infamous for, I should say.
Is this where you describe they'll push through, but they can't hold it?
They can't follow through.
Yes, all that is true. Also, I'd say specifically as well, that's all correct. British are very bad at delaying. They're very bad at delaying. They don't realize that with Gallipoli, like, hey, if we give these guys a long, long time to set mines and whatever, that's going to really harm us.
Oh, they're bad because they delay
There you go.
frequently.
They delay frequently. And the same thing happens here. We just blew up Messines Ridge. Let's go. Okay, let's push the advantage. Let's take Ypres. Let's take the, look where Ypres is here, okay? Look how this is a vital city, right? Very close to the English Channel, very close in the west. It's on the Western Front, obviously, but close to France. Let's take this. Let's get it. Let's do it. Let's push back against the Germans. They've occupied all of Belgium, the whole war. And the British delay. They delay. The campaign really won't start in earnest until 20 days later, July 31st, 1917. Now, what's some setup for the weather? Let's talk about that. That's what I have first, right? Let me go back to my slide here. 3rd Ypres, 5A, set up and weather. Well, setup really is the detonation of Messines Ridge. right? But let's look at the weather, okay? And by the way, the time between the Battle of Messines and the first Allied attack on July 31st, the extent to which the internal troubles of the French armies influenced the British, the effect of the exceptional weather, the decision to continue the offensive in October, and the human costs of the campaign are still debated. They're still to this day debated what actually happened in Passchendaele, with the overall view being it was the worst moment in British history. Caporetto is the worst defeat in Italian history. And guess what? Spoiler, the British kind of win Passchendaele. How bad does that to be the battle you won is the worst thing in your human history? You'll see pretty soon with the photos. You'll see why that's the case. Let me just cut to the chase now. The reason is kind of, it doesn't seem like it accomplishes anything. Whatever is won there, it just seems like more attrition. I thought we're done with attrition, and it's the grossest attrition. Again, it's enough to get blown up by artillery shells, but it's even worse when your comrades fall off duck boards, little planks set up to traverse the quagmire because of all this rainfall, and you have to watch them crying out for help as they sink through and die that way. Like, just the inhumanity is so intense and awful that even though they technically win at the end, whatever that means, it's still just kind of this attitude of like, especially when you colligate it, combine it to the failure at Cambrai, Caporetto, you see why the successful capture of Jerusalem is a Christmas present. They need some cheering up. Nothing is going good for the Allies at this time. As I've said a million times, I'm not saying it's out of the American pride that I have. I'm a very proud American. I love America. It's true that if America doesn't come in, if we don't help them, the Allies lose. The Germans definitely win the First World War if we don't help them out in the following year, which is coming in our next couple lectures. Let me read you some background. Blah, 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 blah. Where is this? Okay, weather. Careful investigation of records of more than 80 years show that in Flanders, the weather broke early each August with the regularity of the Indian monsoon. Okay, so we're at 60 feet elevation, and we're getting monsoon torrential downpours. Do I have to say anything else for you? Once the autumn rains set in, difficulties would be greatly enhanced. And at that point, in 1917, they were set for the wettest August on record in 30 years. Okay. And now, and here's the worst part too. There was 5 inches of rain in August of 1917. Okay. And 3 inches total. 3 inches of the total. It's a lot. 3 inches of total fell on August 1st, 8th, 14th, 26th, and 7th. 5 days, you combined 3 inches of rain, just an enormous. I think I heard once with snow, like an inch of rain is like 3 feet of snow or something. It's crazy. It's like massive. So imagine 5 inches. If, I'm just making this up now, but let's say that was the thing. That'd be like 15 feet of snow in 1 month. Kind of. It's very. You're already in a very, very wet period. Here's the problem though, too, my friends. The month was overcast and windless, which reduced all evaporation. You have low-lying, soft land, prone to being wet, wettest August in 30 years, and no wind to help evaporate. These are the conditions that we're going to fight the Battle of Passchendaele in. Okay, Passchendaele begins. Here's the details. Passchendaele begins not at Passchendaele. We're still at just 30. Remember, they are interchangeable to me. Passchendaele is like the USA and America. The USA and the States, 2 names for the same thing. But really, first and second Passchendaele are the 2 final battles of Third Ypres of the whole campaign. Remember Messiaen's Ridge? We detonated that on the 14th. August 31st, Battle of Pilken Ridge. British begin an attack at 3 a.m. on July 31st. Germans are able to drive the British brigades back. Germans advanced, but they're stopped already then by mud, mainly by mud and artillery fire. So the first engagement is Pilken Ridge. You don't have to write this down. You can if you want, but this is just the beginning of Third Ypres, already in July, problems with mud. Next important engagement at Third Ypres between August 15th and 25th. Remember, all of Third Ypres is July to November 1917. It's really the whole second half, the most important second half of 17 on the Western Front. And in fact, look, my friends, if you were to look at my little chart, you see where I have July to November 1917 and 2 more arrows? Concurrently happening are the operations at Fatima and the Russian Revolution. A lot is going on in the world at this time. As the soldiers are drowning in the mud at Third Ypres, the apparitions of Fatima, Russia, the miracle of the sun, the actual overthrow finally of by Lenin of the provisional government. A lot of this happening at the same time. People don't even know, dispatches are being read and stuff, but it's not our modern day. Look up Twitter, right? It's happening at the same time, these massive world-changing events, which was my whole pitch in the church back in the summer, how important this class is for that reason. Not the class. Maybe my class sucks. The way I teach the class sucks. It's awful. The material itself Material is so important, right? So much stuff that happens here has such a long-standing effect. Battle of Hill 70. The Germans are, the Canadian Corps, basically Canada versus Germany. The Canadian Corps execute an operation to capture Hill 70 and part of the battlefield. Hill 70 is part of the 30 per battlefield. They're met with different types of fire, repelled by the Germans, and in a very tragic kind of description, I would say, quote, the goals of the Canadian Corps were only partially accomplished. All right, so I mean, again, it seems like the only thing being accomplished here is more muck and more death and more widespread attrition on all ends, but no one is really accomplishing anything of actual value. And at Hill 70, the battle is especially costly because it's a maybe more than normal or more obvious use of this blistering sulfur mustard gas. So on top of dying in these pits in the rainiest August ever, no evaporation, quagmire pits, now you have to freaking add in, sulfur gas. It's really is, Passchendaele is simply like a scene of hell on earth. But even as Sophia earlier mentioned correctly about Verdun going on, it's like, here's the best way of putting it. Passchendaele is Verdun, but wet, with quagmires, with quicksand and sulfur gas. It's like all the horrors of Verdun times, I really think Passchendaele is the worst, 30 is the worst battle, maybe of the whole 20th century. Maybe of all time. I don't know. You can keep going on with this, but okay. Let's keep moving on. Let's see. In late September, Battle of the Main Road Bridge. Okay, British at this point, in this stalemate going on, the weather is bad. They decide to have more emphasis on the use of heavy and medium artillery to destroy German pillboxes and machine guns. You have aircraft being used for systematic observation, but again, I wrote down 4 points here. At this point, we're already a couple months into 30 Pro. We had one success, the Allies. What was that? The detonation of Messine's ribs. That was good. But ever since then, 4 things. We sit in the muck, all of us, us and we sit in the muck, we snipe at each other, guarantee attrition, and then we strafe. If it's not sniping, we're just like, artillery strafing, hoping it hits someone, hoping it blows up boxes. It's not, everyone's dying, everyone's cold, everyone hates everything, right? Okay. Now we move to the main event. First and second Battle of Passchendaele, which again is part of 30 Bridge. I said it ad nauseum, forgive me. First Passchendaele is fought in October of 1917. It begins on October 12th. The next day, Our Lady of Fatima does the miracle of the sun. That very same month, Vladimir Lenin takes power in Russia. I mean, all these things are converging. The Americans are getting ready to enter the war. They're ready to declare the war. We're getting ready to come over en masse. First day of Passchendaele, weather and fatigue are playing a massive role. Once again, heavy rain and mud make movement more difficult. Can't even bring artillery closer, stuck in the mud. I'm gonna show you pictures of horses getting stuck in the mud. Allied troops, suffice to say, were exhausted, low morale. How could you not be? I mean, tell me you have to be superhuman or crazy, either one of those things, to actually like nuts, actually have no clue what's going on, to be like, this is fine, this is normal. After a quote, and this is a very sad word, depressing, after a modest British advance, talk about a euphemism, which probably means 5,000 guys with their heads blown off and died in this sinking pit for nothing, for absolutely nothing. The German counterattacks recovered most of the lost ground, back and forth. 13,000 Allied casualties, kind of as Passchendaele opens up. 13,000 amongst hundreds of thousands. On October 13th, the day of the miracle of the sun, Haig, the British commander, agrees we should pause the attacks till the weather improves. Okay, but then pretty soon he decides, no, we have to keep the attacks going. Why? Because we do. That's what we do, just keep attacking. I guess we're never going to learn our lesson. I guess we're just going to keep doing the human wave stuff no matter what happens. The battle is costly for the British as well, okay? And some German generals are advocating retreat and saying like, this is also not worth it, and yet they're being hardened there. So first Passchendaele just has a lot of casualties, a lot of mud, a lot of muck. The second one really opens up, and you can say that if you want the dates of second Passchendaele, October 26th to November 10th. That'll take us to the end of the whole 30 Brook campaign. 4th Canadian Divisions capture some of its objectives in the low-lying area, but guess what? They're forced to retire pretty quickly because of German counterattacks. I'm sorry if this is boring you in some ways, but yes, it's that simple. We're all sinking in the soft ground. Whenever we gain a thing of ground, they gain it right back, and everyone dies along the way. it's not until finally by early November, actually Passchendaele will be captured. This is why I said that it's an Allied success. Allies win Passchendaele, right? And yet later on, Lloyd George writes in his memoirs, Passchendaele was indeed one of the greatest disasters of the war. No soldier of any intelligence now defends this senseless campaign. And so by the end of 1917, right, what do you have? You have complete exhaustion and fatigue. Some people say the British army died at Passchendaele, died in the mud at Passchendaele. You have that. You have Cambrai breaking through the British line, but can't hold it, through the Hindenburg line, excuse me, the German line, push back. That's a big failure. Failure of tanks especially. And you have the failure at Caporetto. The only thing that is interesting is, the only success for the Allies, forget the Christmas present in Jerusalem, is that the way that they were able to break through the Hindenburg line convinces the Germans, we next year have to have a decisive victory. We can't hang back and hope for peace because they're not going to quit. So you can say there's a silver lining for you maybe. And in fact, next class, I believe, the next class we talk about, I think we're going to kind of finish the war in one class next class. And again, I say this every time, I love this class so much. I think we've done justice to all the important battles and stuff. But what's really important is the 1918 German Spring Offensive, Operation Michael, which is that big last push of the Germans to realize, despite everyone losing all the time, we have to make that kind of move. All right, my friends. All I have for you today, like I said, is Passchendaele. I want to be silent looking through these. You can say, certainly, for respect, amen, God rest all our souls, but not even for that. I just don't want to, there's no commentary I can add. Just remember, this is a battle where we just die in the mud and the muck, and it's awful, and it's hell on earth. What can I say? Well, look at this hole in the ground, look at this burnt tree, okay?
So why do they have like photographers or what was the kind of idea with recording these things? Because it seems like if we're able to have any photos at all, isn't it terrible that someone's taking photos?
No, I think no. That's
dying, but at the same sense, if I was there and I had a camera, I'd be like, well,
Yeah.
someone someday should see this.
That's
thing,
exactly
because
it.
who
No,
would
it's
believe
just
it?
too important. Why do people film the Twin Towers and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
right? Like,
so
why?
you have to record.
Yeah, there's something that I don't. That's a great point. Honestly, it's a brilliant point. Where does curiosity and posterity end with human respect and but
Yeah.
just that reason. Let me turn the camera so you guys can see better on the Zoom. Part of the camera's cut off. This is a picture of Ypres as it looked. Really cool, kind of beautiful cathedral, cloth market, really thriving city. Remember, this is the location once more for everyone, right? Here's now beginning what it looks like after these three battles of Ypres, especially the third one, Passchendaele, the death and the destruction of the city.
That's the same place.
That's the exact same place. That's
Okay.
that's that place. Yeah. So pretty well destroyed, right? Here, despite it's badly pixelated, but you see kind of the side by side direct. This next photo is a submerged tank. Like it was so deep and so quagmire-like, even tanks kind of fall like a children's toy into a mud puddle. And of course, the horses. That front horse is really stuck. I mean, he's up to his neck almost. Right? That's a big workhorse point that he's completely submerged. Looks like he's in there 4 or 5 feet in the ground. Soldiers describe this stuff, this land here, like the consistency of cottage cheese. Imagine trying to walk through cottage cheese. Right? It's horrifying. If the First World War wasn't bad enough, like I said, add cottage cheese rain kind of conditions to it. That's why, again, it makes this exceptional, stand out amongst all battles. But anyways, I promise silence.
What are they doing?
No idea. Maybe laying a path for duck boards. Like these are the,
Oh.
but on
Where the
no,
ground is a little
do
more-
not, yeah, maybe where the ground's a little more firmer. Don't take my word, I'm not sure. This is, let's see if I can find a duck board for you guys soon. Show them soon. Here's, okay, yeah, I'll go back to this photo. Like, see here, these pontoons almost like what had to be laid so you wouldn't, I'm gonna go back again, but like maybe what those guys are doing is surveying to place stuff like that, where we actually can move across the land without
Right.
sinking into the dirt.
Were there mines With these minefields?
Not sure,
perhaps?
yeah, I don't know,
Might be another.
which would be all, even more horrifying. I mean, another level, I don't know, I'm not sure. It used to be a forest, right? Those are trees. They were trees anyways. That's what artillery does to trees, right? It makes it almost like a moon-like landscape. Maybe this is even creepier. This is a great photo too, beautiful quality. But even like that, that could be a nice path, like you could walk down with, someone, beautiful promenade. Look what it's become, right? It's like, it looks like you couldn't destroy more than an atomic bomb if you wanted to, like be the same, it seems like.
Amazing some of the quality.
Yeah, right?
These photos from how old they are.
But leave you on a hopeful note, last slide. That's what Ypres looks like today. States come back, they rebuilt it. The human spirit, triumphs, kind of, right? Okay, I'm signing off. Guys, really quick note, happy Veterans Day tomorrow, which again, as all of you know, all of us know, like takes from Armistice Day, November 11th of 1918, which we'll cover in this class. Next week, next Tuesday is the next time we'll meet normal time. If anyone's interested in coming again, thank you all for being here. It's always so cool. I always appreciate that so much. So fun to do. I would do this lecture with no one in the room, just the computer. Really, I love this material, but it's nice to share it with you. Thank you. Next week on Tuesday, same syllabus, 8:25 in the morning. Thanksgiving is fully off, and that's on the syllabus too. Just keep in mind, I'm not gonna have class on Thanksgiving. At that point, you're like, you might have a problem. And I'm glad you're committed to history, but okay, everyone have a great day, great weekend. See you.